I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
For every family in this country, the stability of the banking system matters.
The ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally.
And there's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system.
The government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do?
I print banknotes. In my office, I print banknotes. And with these banknotes, I will buy you something.
It's a great business to be in, central banking. Print money and people believe it.
It's a combination of dementia and immorality. And I think the people that are pushing it are a disgrace.
Yes, blockchain will survive. But will Bitcoin survive?
Traders focused on a growing crackdown that's happening in China.
It's energy intensive. It uses a lot of energy. And it's also a place where white supremacists apparently are taking options.
So much of the market cap can be moved by literally one-word tweets by one person.
I'm not salty. I feel like you guys must be quite salty. Have you seen the Bitcoin price?
Bitcoin has lost 60% of its value since November of last year, 20% in the last month.
But the other problem with Bitcoin is that it's very inefficient to try to use it as a medium of exchange.
There will be no currency that gets around government control.
We could be talking about, instead of Bitcoin, we could be talking about digital currency.
The token of choice for ransomware.
I do worry about potential losses that investors in it could suffer.
Bitcoin is going to zero. Zero.
We're down to 12 cents, 11 cents. We're down to 10 cents. We're down to 9 cents, 6 cents. We are going 5 cents. We are down to, wow. I don't know what this means, people. We are down to 1 cent.
Which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity.
It's an odd judgment because she's been found guilty and convicted of negligence, and it's an odd decision because she comes out, on the one hand, guilty, on the other hand, not punished.
German lender Deutsche Bank is no stranger to scandal for everything from dodgy mortgage-backed securities to money laundering.
Meanwhile, Signature Bank marks the third largest bank failure in U.S. history.
The sudden collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
Those had pushed Switzerland's number 2 bank to the brink of collapse.
After several Fed presidents revealed large investments in stock trades.
And on Paul Pelosi buying up to $5 million in stock in chipmaker NVIDIA ahead of that vote on the $52 billion in taxpayer subsidies.
JP Morgan precious metals traders have each been charged with alleged spoofing, market manipulation and fraud between 2008 and 2016.
The reason why Bitcoin is so powerful is that it aligns the incentives.
To me, it's garbage.
They can be as greedy as they want.
I'm not going to take real money and put it into this thing. It's never going to happen.
They are being forced to promote a freedom tool.
So I've got gold and I've got Bitcoin. In fact, now crypto's bigger than my gold holdings.
Bitcoin is the first system of money that is not controlled by any entity, that is completely decentralized.
This is financial inclusion, that this is a network and a monetary system that doesn't hold any bias, and there's no intermediary that could tell him that he's not allowed.
This is the people's money.
Understanding that it's not just currency, understanding that it is a platform for trust.
And your trusted third party is 100,000 computers.
Private property rights, rule of law, honest money. That's what our founding fathers wanted. That's what Bitcoin is.
Bitcoin will have been a story about when a bunch of imperfect humans met a perfect machine and what happened.
The idea that we should be ruled by rules, not by rulers.
Bitcoin doesn't have classes. Everyone is the same before that set of rules.
Bitcoin is an alternative to modern central banking.
It is the concept of decentralization applied to the human communication of value.
The Federal Reserve is one of the most transparent central banks in the world.
That's a statement. What do you fear?
All of these political systems, all these economic systems throughout the history of the human race, they've been collapsing because of unsterile money.
We in this room are using a technology that has taken the metal and the paper away from them. And it is through this single lever that they have set flourishing societies on the path to inevitable poverties.
With inflation now surpassing 700% and rising.
The gap between the official rate of the pound and the black market has reached 100%.
As the lira's value plummets, shopkeepers and bakers are forced to constantly raise their prices.
Farmers there are getting into terrible debt, and it's driving many to suicide.
100 euros per day is all that can be withdrawn from most bank ATMs.
Inflation may finally be making a return in Japan.
In Spain, the headline figure even higher at 8.7%.
But we see it as a hump, and a hump eventually declines.
A sharp uptick in the number of German firms beginning insolvency proceedings.
I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the prudent price hike.
Hail to the chief. To Joe Biden.
California inflation relief checks will start going out as soon as this Friday.
The UK economy faced a major financial crisis, only averted by an extraordinary intervention by the Bank of England.
Inflation has not peaked yet.
There's no guarantee that we can do that. I think we now understand better how little we understand.
Don't we see a gigantic bubble here on your balance sheet with the euro? And isn't this graph very nerve-wracking?
It will come. It will come. In due course, yeah.
If they keep going, it's like we enter full Weimar territory.
Oh yeah, that's where this is going.
So you think we're going?
Oh God, yeah. That's not even hard.
And how does it?
All we know at this point is that they're going to have to print money, and they're going to have to print a lot of it.
They can either debase or default.
What you end up doing is hyperinflate.
And they are going to have to print until their eyes bleed.
This will make the great financial crisis look like a tea party.
When we get to a point where people realize, oh God, this is not stopping, they're going to have to issue so much debt.
Once we have that big blow up of the good old trusted fiat currencies like the British pound and the euro and the dollar, like
Bitcoin is like a release valve that people can turn to if they find themselves stuck in these environments that might be more inflationary in the future than we've grown accustomed to in our lifetimes.
in my lifetime, the Venezuelan government has wiped out 14 zeros from the currency.
Sri Lanka's prime minister says his country is now bankrupt.
The crisis is largely the result of 3 decades of financial mismanagement by successive governments.
Turkey's yearly inflation leapt to a new 20-year high of just over 61% in March.
109% last month.
28.92% in December.
25.8% in August.
19.4% year-on-year in March.
Inflation is at a 50-year high and food has become unaffordable for millions.
Increasing volatility from the country's inflation, shooting up over 100%.
The Lebanese pound has lost 85% of its value, pushing more than half of the population into poverty.
So only 13% of humans in the world live in a country that's a liberal democracy with property rights and has what we call a reserve currency.
With Bitcoin, there are no bail-ins, no bank holidays, no seizures, no currency controls. No one can stop you, censor you, take away your money, stop you from spending it. None of that.
It's a way to opt out. You can opt out peacefully from the system.
So this guy, like the last thing he said to me basically was like, I'm saving up for my kids and this is my ticket out of here.
Why are these people protesting? Apparently they are unable to withdraw money. Their own money.
Armed people enter banks demanding their own money.
He's demanding his own money and threatening to burn down the bank.
And truckers who have not been arrested are dealing with the fallout of frozen bank accounts and seized assets.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, there's a name for them. We call them poor.
Bitcoin's back. Why?
We're not back. Like, this is just getting started. You're talking about investing government resources in this completely decentralized resource, which scares people, right?
Does it scare you? I guess it scares you. I don't live here. Okay, well, I guess it scares you.
It doesn't scare you.
I think it's something worth studying. I think it's something worth studying and worth looking at.
It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency.
People should have the opportunity to make those decisions for themselves.
If you're in a country where you're fearful of your future, fearful of your government, or you're frightened that your government is devaluing its currency by too much deficits.
Like us.
I'm not going to go there.
The little elephant in the room.
Yeah. You could say this is a great potential long-term store of value.
So I'm looking forward to that first paycheck in Bitcoins.
I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador.
This is our Louisiana Purchase moment. Thank you, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government.
It's one of the reasons why I am so bullish on Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is money for the people, money for all people.
Bitcoin solves the fiat Ponzi.
Think about what money is. It is how we value what we do with our lives.
It changes how we show up. It changes our time preference to thinking long term.
We're like talking about the future of our children.
Bitcoin is reflecting at us how much each of us as individuals value freedom.
I think it's the greatest tool for human freedom that's ever existed.
We don't have technology to stop this.
You can put regulations, you can ban people buying it. Yeah, you might slow the adoption, but try and stop the Bitcoin network. You can't.
All we can do is by some sly roundabout way introduce something they can't stop.
And that's exactly what Satoshi has given us, that sly roundabout way.
It's these little technologies that occasionally come up that tip the balance of power in a favor back towards the individual. So the printing press is something like that.
Just how I'm going to spend the rest of my life. Like if I were not at Square or Twitter, I'd be working on Bitcoin.
I think Bitcoin's going to be the key ingredient to humanity going like the next level.
And our future may depend upon one man who makes the world safe for capitalism, and that's Satoshi.
And I just think that the elites in the West are just so clueless about that. Like that even in one of the most restrictive, repressive, dystopian places on earth, Gaza, people are using Bitcoin to escape.
In my part of the world, the biggest problem is corruption. Bitcoin is your solution.
Wherever Bitcoin has been embraced, anywhere in the world, freedom and equality follow. Bitcoin is the embodiment of freedom.
Those guys, they're going to go down with the ship, and that is basically the backbone that, defines what Bitcoin is.
Bitcoin has not been attacked yet, really. It will get attacked more.
They can come after me. They can come after any individual. I'll die on this hill, but they can't stop this idea.
What's Alan Greenspan going to do? He's going to print more money. Are we going to stop it? There's only one way to stop it.
This is got to stop.
And we will be your guide through the separation of money and state.
Countries are going to compete, stack Bitcoin.
You don't even look at the price in fiat.
Get off zero, like today.
We're just waiting for the rest of the world to realize how good it is.
Prepare. I know. Prepare for the halving. The halving is coming.
If people in your life are not showing you active disdain, you're not stacking hard enough.
The hardcores.
If you're still invited to family Thanksgiving, you're not stacking hard enough.
Right? We refer to them as the psychopaths.
If your car is younger than Bitcoin, you're not stacking hard enough.
They're not putting it back on the market.
If nobody has called you a retard, you're not stacking hard enough.
What the heck do you think's going to happen when it's at 200,000 or 300,000? They're not selling at all. They're doubling down at that point.
You're just not stacking hard enough.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay.
It's the most asymmetric trade in the history of the world.
What's the second best? There is no second best.
It is the ultimate solution. It is the light at the end of the tunnel.
The question is, how many people are actually going to be prepared before they need it and don't get absolutely wrecked?
This is hope.
This is freedom.
Fix the money, fix the world.
It's bullish for freedom.
Thank God for Bitcoin.
Stay humble, stack sats.
We're going to win.
We're going to win.
We are going to win. There is no doubt we are going to win.
I think Bitcoin will be successful. I think it will be the money of the world.
I genuinely am in this space because I think it will change the world for the better.
I mean, really, we joke about Bitcoin fixes this, but it really like fixes a lot of things.
Bitcoin, its underlying technology, breaks Orwell's dictum.
And it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet.
We have to work together, and we have to make sure they do not reduce this country to the land of the free and the home of the slave.
Try to live as there's a Bitcoin standard today.
There's people that are waking up this morning thinking about a different currency than the one they grew up on. That is hyperbitcoinization. It's happening right now, today.
A country plugs in into open monetary system and gives their citizens hope.
But I now think in Bitcoin, and it's very freeing.
1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Got it.
I'm just going all in on this.
God.
And if it doesn't work out, it's fucking better than participating in the war economy.
It's so fucking true.
Go crack your piggy bank, take your money out, put it in the Bitcoin network, leave it there.
And I hope you all can get out the shower and look yourself in the mirror and say you're improving humanity, and don't you dare let anyone tell you otherwise.
If you have the superior asset, it's going up forever, Lord.
If people are not making fun of you for brown bagging your lunch, you're not stacking hard enough.
Bitcoin or slavery.
The rights aren't given, they are taken. Bitcoin or slavery. All we can do is buy.
Hello out there. Happy Friday. We're on the air. I figured it would be a good chance to pause it here and send this video a little bit of sats, a little bit of love. That was an amazing 17 minutes of what we're living through right now. Very well done, very well captured. And so we should give back a little bit here. So take some time. If you're going to zap me today, instead, send a little zap to the creator of this video. That was, oh shit. That was where, who did that?
Spend temporarily the.
Hello Bitcoin. Hello Bitcoin. So you can find that on their YouTube channel if you want to watch that again 20 times today. Incredible. Great way to start the show. Thanks to the people in the Living in the Future community who initially shared that with me. I saw it a couple more times on Twitter after that, but I think it was Rock and Roll who initially sent that to the group. So, I mean, it's a perfect fit because before I set up the show this morning, I figured out what I was going to talk about. It is Friday, so we usually free ball. But I did have a couple things I wanted to talk about. And then I watched that video and it tied in perfectly to what we're going to talk about today in terms of Bitcoin being for the people and kind of where we're at right now. So happy Friday. It's good to see you. We got lots of people in the chat here to start the show today, which is good. I'm sure there'll be more coming because usually right now is when we start the show. So we got our favorite mug and his Fat Zap Friday. Lots of good stuff. Oh, we had Arnie here too, but he's gone. Shit. Sorry, Arnie. By the way, shout out to everybody who's been zapping Arnie's wallet. I think yesterday during the second showing of the Daily Bitcoin Journey, there was 3,000 sats, 1,000 sats, 2,000 sats, and 4,200 sats, and 1,100 sats to Arnie's wallet. So the only person who left a comment here, this is a really good way to do it, honestly. And I know that the boosts on Fountain work well, but I mean, if you want to send some sats and a message to Arnie's wallet, this seems like the easiest way to do it and the most efficient way to do it because you can leave a comment on here too. So 2,000 sats here. Bitcoin below 1 million is a bigger no-brainer than below 100K. I agree with that. From the Vinmeister. So thank you for that, and thank you to everybody else who has been sending in zaps to Arnie's wall. I'm going to leave this live here. So if you want to send in a zap with a comment or whatever, you can send it right there. And we have the Bitcoin jukebox for the rescue dogs on Tuesday. So if you want to hear a song, your favorite song or a relevant song, whatever you want to play, can get my channel shut down again. But just send a zap into this with your song request, and the highest zap the song will be played on Tuesday morning, also known as Tuesday. So it is Friday. It is the Daily Bitcoin Journey. This show focuses on actionable and logical discussion for Bitcoiners and for future Bitcoiners out there. We can't forget about the future Bitcoiners. So that's how these shows are tailored. That's what we're here to do. And we're here to support everything that we just watched in that 17-minute clip there. Everything. That's why we're here. That's why we show up every single day. And that's why we're working our titties off to push this thing forward. So Daniel, I see, sent in a zap. It looks like 1,000 sats to Arnie's wallet. Thank you, Daniel. It is Fat Zap Friday. Daniel says, good morning. Just zapped Arnie a fatty. We got Letha over there. Good morning, Letha. And Plunger. And a few more people who shall remain nameless. So thank you. Well, where do we begin? Let's get to some chats here. Let's get to some chats. Let's take it easy today. It's Friday. I had a very wild week here. Wild week. Slept in today. Somehow managed to get everything done and even showed up early today. So that's what happens when you're excited about things. Push through it. Tim McCrasher says, good morning, Bitcoiners, for the people, by the people. You are the network. You are the voting consensus on the nodes. You are the hash. Be sovereign, run a node. Mine Bitcoin, store your keys. We should honestly just end the show after that. I got nothing else to add to that. Very well said. Timber Crasher also says, Bitcoin is a protocol, only succeeds if you do your part. We don't need bankers coming back from the dead and taking this freedom from us again. Freedom has a high price. Freedom demands self-sovereignty. Amen to that, brother. Thank you, Timber Crasher. Thank you for everything that you do here in the community as a journeyman and as a living in the future member. Very much appreciate you, my friend. Hey, Anarcho's in the chat. We are all Satoshi. And Bodhi says, I'm Bitcoin. I run a node. Bitcoin was made for the people. Bitcoin was made by the people. Bitcoin is decentralized money for the people. The little people like us. The big boys don't like that. That's going to be the theme of today's show. We got a couple clips I want to share. We're going to go back and forth. Again, this isn't an official No Agenda Friday, but if you have anything that you want to ask or discuss, you can send it in the chat. And if you really want me to see it, for sure, guarantee, you can send a zap to Arnie's wallet or a super chat. And here is Arnie's wallet if you aren't able to use the QR code there. We got Duncan in the chat. Morning, Duncan. Luke. Josh. Morning, Arn and Jor from Old Ontario. Always appreciate you. Back at you, my friend. We had Arnie here, but he just teases us. He stops by for like a minute and then says, got to go. More important things to do, I guess. Morning, Andrew. Good morning, Dutchie. Josh says, would love that link to the documentary you mentioned about the 3 linked world events you briefly mentioned a few shows ago. Yeah, so if you are watching this and you are one of the members of the Living the Future community, I actually shared the whole video there. So I shared the show that we did, and then the documentary that we watched together, and then another conversation that was more recent between Marty Bent and another fella who was talking about the same events that were in the documentary and how it ties to the Las Vegas shooting. So, I mean, honestly, it's probably worth joining, even if you just join and cancel after a month. But to watch that video and to see what's been happening for these last 8 years, I think it's pretty important if you like staying up to date and if you have an open mind on things, because some of it is a little bit out there, but I mean, it's all happening right now. Like, you cannot deny that. So it just blows my mind that people are still using like the whole conspiracy theory thing. Like, have you heard many conspiracy theories that haven't come true in the last couple of years? The difference between a conspiracy theory and reality is about 6 months. So that video was very eye-opening for me. And it's actually what led me to Bitcoin, believe it or not. It's led me to sitting right here talking to you. That documentary. So again, for those in the Living in the Future community, I actually pinned it right at the top of the feed. So it's very easy to find. It's about an hour and a half with everything. You can fast forward, I think, to about the 45-minute mark and start there if you don't want to watch the daily Bitcoin journey aspect of that. Bodhi says link to this video. So that was from, again, Hollow Bitcoin, HALLO Bitcoin. That's on YouTube. That was the video we started with today. Jason's in the chat. Good morning, Jason. Ginger, Jay. We got Rick in the chat. Good morning, Rick. Got too many phones happening here and keys. Let me check. How are we looking for likes? We got 61 people in here and we have 29 likes. Oh yeah, it's not bad. We'll take it. We'll take it. While I have your attention here, we did pretty good work yesterday on the show because it is Friday. It is Fat Zap Friday. And it also means that we're doing our Bitcoin Amigos show today, the debut. So it looks like we've had a couple new subscribers. Chris shared some clips on there, so make sure you go check those out today. There's 6 or 7 clips that were shared. And make sure everybody watching this right now, just go over there. You can stop the video. You're not going to miss much in the first couple minutes here. So just go over to Bitcoin Amigos YouTube channel and make sure to subscribe over there. And we're going to be doing our first stream ever. Well, as Bitcoin Amigos officially. Last couple have been on Chris's channel, but this is our brand new channel. We got an X link. We got a Nostr NPub. We got a geyser.fund. So it's pretty cool. It's Jerry Loves Freedom and Chris from Fractal Bitcoin and myself. So every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, including today, we're going to just do a little live stream for the people. For the people. Andreas, good morning. Bitcoin or slavery? Absolutely. That's exactly how I see it as well. Sounds a little extreme, but it's the absolute truth. Alex Carr, hello Bitcoin. Billy, what's up, Jory? Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you too. Good to see you too, Billy. Dale, if Bitcoin was a dumb idea, we would not be listening to this podcast. 21 million. Thanks to Jor. Hey, thank you, Dale. Thank you for supporting this little wee channel and for showing up in the chat. And I'm just the guy on the screen. It's everybody else who shows up here every day and makes this show what it is. So thank you to everybody out there. Leoms, good morning. Stack as hard as you can. Yes. And have a little sense of urgency as well. BitBilly says, I bought MicroStrategy at 490, so a little stressed, but I will never sell. So hopefully I get above. I always seem to buy at all-time highs. Well, you're not alone. I think that that's human nature, buying at the top. But as you mentioned, that's not going to be the top. So don't worry about that. I mean, I was going to talk a little bit about MicroStrategy today, but we'll maybe save that for Monday. I feel like we're going to have enough to talk about today. We got Tartafuna. Hyperinflation is coming. Selfie up before the crash begins. I think it's already here. When a bag of potato chips costs $8.50 at the convenience store, hyperinflation is already here. It's not coming. It's here. Lori, good morning. Good to see you. Is that coffee or a cake? I think it's coffee. Speaking of cakes, we got a special birthday this weekend. Arnie's. We don't know the exact day he was born because he was a rescue dog. So he was born in the wild. Born in the wild and tamed to be a house pet. And if you saw him out in the wild, you might mistake him for a wolf. But so it's his birthday this weekend. We don't know an exact date. We're going with a certain special date in a few days. But so it's Arnie's birthday this weekend, Arnie's birthday weekend. So that's why the cake made me think of that, Lori, but I think that's actually a coffee cup, the closer I look. Bit Billy says, my song is I'm a Loser Baby. I mean, you could request it. There's actually a good song. Speaking of that, I think that was by who? That's an older song, right? From like the 90s. I'm a Loser Baby. I think so. But anyways, there's a new song, Post Malone and the Big Boy, Jelly Roll. It's called Loser. That's a really good song too. I mean, it's kind of like, I prefer Winner. I'd like it better if it was Winners, but it's a good song. It's catchy, and it's kind of similar vibe. It's like I'm a Loser Baby. But you know, if you're watching the show today, you're not a loser. You're a fucking winner. You're a winner. Plunger says the Bitcoin Amigos logo 3 donkeys. It's actually 3 mules. And if you've watched the show before, you'd know where the mules come from. A couple of mules, couple of horses. My Pat the Fire's over there as well. Good morning, my Pat the Fire. Pedro. Good morning. And Thrego. Good morning. Hold on, I missed a question here. Where was that one? Oh, Boss says, what is your opinion of Green app for Jade? Personally, I've never used it. We got a Jade here about a month ago now. And so it's another, I don't think you can have too many hardware devices, honestly. You should never have it all on one. But, you know, if you're just getting into Bitcoin, don't feel like you have to buy 2 or 3 to try them all out. Just take it easy. Take it slow. Get your keys protected. And then just take some time. But I've never used the Green app. I'm more of a air gap. That's why I love the Jade, because you can air gap it. So that's what I would say on that. But I mean, for people who are very interactive with their phone and like to spend their Bitcoin and move it around, then good. But you know, I like the Jade, the Cold Card, and the Passport because they're air gapped. It doesn't connect to the internet. It doesn't connect to a USB port. And so I'm guessing if you use the Green app with Jade, it's going to be somewhat connected to the internet. Ozukas, what's the second best cryptocurrency? The Hawk 2, a meme coin. Fucking morons. People will never learn. And I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't mock because I understand where they're coming from. Everybody's just so desperate right now in the world because of hyperinflation, because our currency is being debased. And a ton of people are in a ton of debt and they're looking for a really quick fix. And they think that a meme coin might do it, a cryptocurrency might do it. But if they just held some Bitcoin and looked at sats as a crypto, they would be in a much, much better spot. Noah says, if we live in a hyper-Bitcoinized world, how would credit work? Well, I mean, I don't think that I don't think it's ever going to be just Bitcoin. I really don't. And some people think it's going to be like 50 years away we might be. But you also have to define what a hyper-Bitcoinized world is, right? Like, are you referring to people only use Bitcoin? That's the only currency that exists? Because that'll never happen. And I think that people who believe that are completely delusional, even as a Bitcoiner who has a Bitcoin show, like it's just not feasible. That's the thing. It's not feasible. So I don't think we'll have to worry about that. Pedro, there's no second best. That's right. That's the right. answer. My Path to Fire says, oh, I think I might have orange pilled someone today. Fingers crossed. Always good to bring another person onto the life raft. No doubt. That is the truth, isn't it? It's a pretty good feeling. Keep in mind too, when you're looking at orange pilling friends and family, don't ever expect a thank you. Don't ever expect them to say, hey, Jory, you know what? I want to say thank you for telling me to buy Bitcoin back in 2021. Never going to happen. That's just not how humans work. Noah says, would it become an over collateralized world? And don't you think that it could be a risk that you can't just print Bitcoins like QE to save the economy? I mean, Noah, what I think is going to happen is I think that Bitcoin is just going to be the collateral for everything to run on top of. Right. And I think that Bitcoin is going to be used. I think there's going to be kind of two different economies for a little while. I think that Bitcoiners who are here now are going to be transacting and storing their wealth in a very self-sovereign way that a lot of people won't ever have the opportunity to in our lifetime. I mean, I'm not going to try to predict 50 years out. I have no idea what that looks like. It could look 100% different from today. And who knows, Bitcoin might have somehow lost steam, lost demand, who knows? But in our lifetime, I think that there's going to be two different economies that happen. Where the Bitcoiners who are like here now and maybe in the next year or so, like before it hits 1 million, the Bitcoiners who are there before 1 million, I think are going to have kind of like their own separate economy where they're going to buy and sell things from each other. They're going to transact. They're going to have their own little networks. And a lot of that's going to be very private and self-sovereign. And then on the other side of things, Bitcoin is going to be used as this collateral where you can go to the bank and get a loan for a currency. It won't be a fiat currency. Those ones will die. The currencies are going to have to be backed by something now in order to compete. So that system is going to be all collateralized by Bitcoin, and you're going to be able to lend and exchange and swap and store everything on your wallet, on your phone. But a lot of that's going to be KYC'd, right? Anytime you're dealing with the banks and taking on loans against your Bitcoin, that's all KYC'd. So I think that that's still coming, but I think that the cutoff point is going to be like $1 million Bitcoin, where the people who are there before that are going to be dealing with each other in a kind of separate economy. So, and also dipping their toes into the real world, of course. I plan on being part of both, but that's just kind of how I see it. Maverick the Mighty checking in. Love that. I love that name. Maverick the Mighty. Josh says, Jor, I know you're rural, so what do you think of the new Trudeau ban for types of firearms just announced? What do you think, Josh? What do you think I think about it? I mean, it's the government right now, especially here in Canada. I think that all governments are kind of starting to feel this right now, but the government of Canada especially is very desperate, very desperate. Like nobody's really paying attention to them anymore. They're losing a lot of their influence. They're losing obviously their currency, which is their bloodline, like their blood support is their currency, is dying. And so I think that eventually they'll run out of steam. They'll just fade away. I don't know. Canada's an interesting one for me because I think that they're going to be one of the first countries to fail the currency. But I also think that it's going to like fail and then it's just going to blow up. And I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. I think the US is going to be part of that revival. But it is going to be shitty here for a while. And it has been shitty here for a few years. But I don't know. I don't really worry too much about it because we have Bitcoin. Happy birthday to Arnie. Amen to that. His first birthday. So he was born in December in the cold in Saskatchewan on a reserve. And a couple months later, he found his home here. And I don't think he's ever looked back. He's got it pretty good here. He's got it pretty good here. So they thought it was about this week that he was born, or their litter was born. And so we just gave him a December 8th birthday. Diesel. Look at this. Been watching quietly on your channel for 8 months or so. Appreciate the consistent content. I love that. And that, you know, what I absolutely love the people who show up here every day and join the chat and make the show what it is. But I'm also very curious to know, like, who else is watching, you know, because there's usually about 500, 600, 700 people who watch these shows every day. And there's usually like 30, 40 people who are active in the chat. So shout out to Diesel. Thanks. I appreciate your support. And I hope that you've been getting some value from the show. And that's a shout out to everybody out there who's, you know, just been watching and supporting anonymously or however. But, you know, I appreciate you. Noah, lots of questions today. Do you think Bitcoin volatility will go down with time? And what are consequences of that? Yeah, I mean, absolutely it will. That's just, it's not my opinion. That's just how it'll work. When there's more people involved, when it's more decentralized. I mean, it's already a lot less volatile than it was 4 years ago. With and a big reason for that is the big money that's here now, right? And so when volatility is caused by people selling, buying and selling, right? And very, very emotional. That's what volatility is. Emotions cause volatility. And when you have countries and we have public companies like MicroStrategy and Semler and Bitcoin Well now buying Bitcoin, like that Bitcoin is going to stay there for a very long time. I don't want to say forever, but it's going to stay there for a very long time. So when those coins aren't moving around, that inherently brings down the volatility, right? When they're sent to a wallet and they stay there for a while, they're not swinging the price at all. So as more and more coins move into a more longer term wallet, like has been a big trend we've seen in the last couple of years here, especially in the last couple of months. And the US strategic reserve, like those coins are going to sit there for a very long time, which will inherently reduce the volatility of Bitcoin. So, I mean, again, not my opinion. That's just how economics works. That's how markets work. We got a couple zaps here for Arn. 100 sad zap. Thank you for that. And 1,000 sad zap. Says, happy early birthday, Arnie. Love, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. And thank you to the other zappers. It is Fat Zap Friday today, as a reminder. And Arnie's birthday weekend. Oh, Beck, that's what it was. Yep, that's right. Buck 52,000. Greetings, humans. Robert Stone's webmaster post. I like my Trezor. Well, you know, Trezors are good. They're not great, but they're good. And with that, maybe we'll start with, speaking of Trezor, let's start with some good news today. Got to make sure that this email sent. Of course it didn't. I always send all the links. I get them ready, and then I always just forget to hit send. But luckily, they're stored in my drafts. Got to top this balance up too, by the looks of it. I'm very close. I don't really know what to do here with Zapstream. I hate to say it. But like, until I can get this figured out, I think I'm going to stop streaming on Zapstream, which is sad because I've been doing it for almost a year now and it's been awesome. But it just doesn't really make sense, you know, for me and for people watching. If we can't see who's zapping, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have Zapstream going. Okay, come on. No, this isn't even working. Jesus. Some days. Oh, well, it's Friday. Can't be too mad about anything today. Strange. Won't zap. Have to zap from Arnie's wallet, I guess. Sorry, Arn. That working? No. I don't know. Maybe we'll just run out of sats then and cut off the stream for a while. I don't know. Sorry. Just frustrating. It's just frustrating. Come on. Sorry, folks. Sorry for the delay here. sometimes things just don't go as you plan, you know? You know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's bring this up. What the hell's going on here? Okay, refresh here. Refresh jar. Big news out of Europe. This is exactly why I tell people not to worry about the tax on their Bitcoin. It's exactly why. So we got breaking news out of the Czech Republic. They have scrapped their capital gains tax on Bitcoin, held for 3 years, which I love. I love that. Because this is exactly how it should be, I think, in my opinion. And it sounds like, I watched a video on this morning, but it sounds like they have the exact same laws for stocks. So if you buy a stock and you hold on to it for at least 3 years, it's exempt from any capital gains on that. And that's how it should be, especially in a fiat currency economy. Because why are people buying these stocks? Why are people buying Bitcoin? To protect their purchasing power. And it's different if people are buying and selling like traders, if they're trying to take advantage of the markets. And it's not really taking advantage of it if you can do it. But like that should be taxable to me. If you're actively doing that, that's like your business income. And again, this is in a tax world. I don't think anybody should pay tax, period. But in the tax world that we live in, I think that this makes so much sense in terms of if you buy something and hold on to it for at least 3 years, you're exempt from any future gains on that. And so the Czech Republic has scrapped their capital gains on Bitcoin, which is phenomenal news. And it just goes to show, like, as we move forward here, this is going to become more and more popular. And I think that this is going to happen in the US probably in the next few years. But as more and more countries start adopting this and see how successful this is in terms of bringing in capital into their country, bringing in people into their country, new citizens who are productive, that's what you want. And countries are going to figure that out. The countries who don't figure that out, like Chile, who said that they're not going to entertain Bitcoin yesterday, they're going to fail. And I know it's very easy for us to sit here and think that the world today is how it's always going to be, but that's not how it's been before. Borders have changed, countries have failed, governments have failed. It's happened before, and it's going to happen again. And I think the difference between the government succeeding and failing is going to be how they treat Bitcoin. So big shout out to the Czech Republic, big shout out to Prague. This is the history of Prague so far in Bitcoin. And this is what made me think of this. This is why I want to start the show with this, because it was I don't know if it was the first Bitcoin hardware device, but it's been the most popular one, I think, through the last couple of years. But the Trezor team is from Prague. The Brains Pool team is in Prague. I think they were the first Bitcoin mining pool that existed. They were from Prague. The Stratum V2 mining protocol is from Prague. It's where they came from, where it originated from. There's a Bitcoin lending platform called Firefish. They're in Prague. And a very good resource for everybody out there in terms of finding businesses and finding Bitcoiners that they can network with is btcmap.org. Also came from Prague. So Prague gets it. And I think that today, as it is, it doesn't really seem like much. But if you fast forward this 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're going to see what kind of an impact this is going to have on Czech Republic and Prague. You're going to see it play out. Hasn't happened yet. We're not quite there yet. But just based on that foundation that's being built in Prague, I think that they're going to be one of the powerhouses in the future, just because of all this innovation and ability to adapt with things like the no capital gain tax on Bitcoin. So a huge shout out to Prague, to the Czech Republic. And it sounded like it was a unanimous vote for that in the Czech Republic government. Big cheers. Huge cheers to that. All right, we got another zap here. I like that. Somebody sent in 89 sats. Oh, Ginger. Says 88 sats plus me for 89 sats. Happy birthday from Ginger. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so that was the big piece of news that I wanted to talk about, but we also have a few other things to share here. So let's try to keep up with the chat here a little bit. Diesel says, Sailor talks about how Apple could build Bitcoin into the iPhone. He said you should have Apple pay your bank account and your bank balance on the iPhone. Why do you think they're so reluctant? I actually talked about this earlier in the week, Diesel. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I mean, I don't think that they're reluctant. I think they know exactly what they're doing here. Apple doesn't need to be innovators here. They don't. When you have the reach that Apple has, when you have devices pretty much in the hands of, I don't know, 50% of people in the world, you don't need to be the early adopters in anything. And really what Apple has done through the years and what has led them to where they are today is by not being early adopters. They're not the first to market anything. They let other companies, other projects figure it out. You never want to be the first through the door with anything. And I think Apple has perfected that strategy. The first person through the door always gets shot. So Apple lets other companies figure it out, have the hiccups, fail, figure out what's going on, and then they just wait. And then they wait for the early adopter phase to be done. They figured out how to perfect it and make it very easy for people to use. That's what Apple has always done, right? I think that everybody can agree with that. Very easy. A toddler can pick up an iPad and use it. So Apple makes things easy for people. So I think that over these next couple of years, that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that Apple is going to implement Bitcoin into every app, every phone, every device. It's going to have a lightning wallet attached to it. And they'll probably buy Bitcoin too before they do that, I would hope. But when that happens, like that's when Apple really becomes mainstream, when Apple adopts it, in my opinion. Bitcoin itself is useless. I don't know about that. It's a bold claim. I'd like to hear more about that. I do agree that without the network, it is useless. But you also don't have the network without Bitcoin. It's kind of like the Bitcoin currency versus network, right? And I think that most people, even probably some people watching the show right now who are Bitcoiners, they don't really understand the difference between Bitcoin the currency and Bitcoin the network, right? So the Bitcoin network is like the mempool that we look at every day, the ledger. That's the Bitcoin network, the mining protocol, the SHA-256. That's all built into the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin currency is just what runs on top of that. It's just a currency compatible with the network. But it's like you can't really have the currency without the network, and you can't really have the network without a currency to sit on top of it. So, I mean, everybody just lumps it together. Bitcoin is like this thing, but it's actually two different things. But they can't really work without each other. So, I mean, does that make it one thing? I don't know. But it is very important to kind of differentiate. It helps you understand Bitcoin a little bit better. So I see what you're saying. But still, I don't think that it's worth, talking about it anymore. No days off for Majees. No days off ever. Why would you? We got too much shit to do here. Okay, Letha says Kieran has a Zapstream Discord group. Okay, there we go. And Daniel topped it up for 500. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel says it's your Nostr profile. Really, it's a problem with the GetLB browser extension, if my guess is right. Oh, okay. Find your 24 words for your real Nostr profile, and you can put those into GetLB extension, and I bet you'll be back in business. Huh. Okay, and I have been meaning to do that, honestly. It's just that I haven't had time. And the reason I actually started this new Zapstream channel was because the other one disconnected. Remember, there was a couple of days there where it just wouldn't connect. And so I tried and tried and tried. And I just said, you know what? fuck it, we're just going to start a new Zapstream account. And so it works, it's connected, but the Zaps aren't showing up. So who knows? Ozukis, I sold some property and got a decent amount of fiat. Should I put it all into Bitcoin now or DCA? All in. Why wait? What would you DCA for? Do you think over these next 3 or 4 months it's going to get cheaper to buy Bitcoin? Historically, like, forget the public companies buying Bitcoin. Forget countries buying Bitcoin. Forget the US Strategic Reserve in Bitcoin. Just look back 4 years ago. Look how the last halving played out. It's exactly the same. And the halving happened in May, April, whenever it was. I think it was April this year, May in 2020. It kind of jumped up, came back down, and then it flattened through the whole summer, both times. And then in the fall, it started going up. November, it shot up. December, it shot up even more. And then January, February, it exploded. So what are you DCAing for? Like, are you worried that the price is you're gonna get cheaper in the next couple months? Absolutely, get it all in today. And depending on where you are, make sure that you're using a good exchange to do that. Because here's the thing, and I think this is important for anybody listening right now. Hey, we got Kieran in the chat. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the DCA here thing first. But with a big amount of Bitcoin, it's, if you're buying like $300, $500, $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, then things like Coinbase, things like ShakePay, some of these exchanges, it's okay, right? But you have to also remember that a lot of these exchanges now limit your withdrawals. So even if you bought a bunch of Bitcoin on like Coinbase, they might not let you take it all out for like a month or 2 or 3. I don't know what their daily limits are. I don't use Coinbase, but you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at buying a bigger amount of Bitcoin. So I do have a couple that I recommend here in Canada and some for around the world. So, I mean, if you want to reach out to me, I'd love to just have like a 10 or 15 minute chat with you to give you a few options and give you my experience with these bigger platforms. And that just doesn't apply to Ozukis. That's anybody out there who's looking to make a sizable investment into Bitcoin. You have to really know what you're doing before you just throw a bunch of money at an exchange, because it could make your life pretty difficult for a while. So I have 2 or 3 around the world that I recommend to people. And it's mostly people who will pick up the phone and help you through it and make sure that the bank wire is good, that kind of stuff. And that they don't hold your Bitcoin, they send it to you right away. And they don't have any sort of withdrawal limits. So Ozukis, anybody else who's thinking about making a big purchase into Bitcoin, just reach out. We can set up like a 10-minute call and I'll give you a few options and try to figure out what's best for you going forward. Okay, Kieran says, Jory, your wallet address does not publish Zaps properly. Try another wallet. Okay, do we troubleshoot this on the stream here? Kieran, you're gonna have to talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old here. Where, like the wallet that I'm connected to in terms of like my Koinos wallet, is that what you're talking about? Or I'm thinking so, because otherwise you would have said profile or your NPub. Gotcha. Well, if that's the fix, then that's so. Kieran says Koinos doesn't send Zap events. Gotcha. Well, if it was that easy, I guess I should have thought of that, because when I did create a new profile, I created a new wallet to be attached to that. And also there's been a couple issues, like Daniel sent in a couple Zaps that never came through to the wallet even. So I guess that's a Koinos issue more than it is a Zapstream issue for sure. So let me just do this quickly and we'll troubleshoot this live on the air, because we have the creator of Zapstream in the chat, which is pretty fucking cool for one. But okay, settings, I need to go to my profile, right? Or settings. Yep, settings, profile, lightning address. Okay, I'm going to send them to Arnie today for his birthday. So we'll test some wallets out. What's his thing again? Adopted son 98 at walletofsatoshi.com. Okay. Click save, but I don't know if it did anything there. Okay, where were we here? Let's try her out now. Oh. Okay, can someone send a test zap over in Zapstream just to see if it shows up? And I'll make sure it goes to this wallet too. I'll be able to see if it shows up. Sorry, YouTube. We got a live troubleshooting on the show here today. Okay, I might have to. I don't see anything yet. Can someone just send like an 8 sat zap or something, anything just to make sure that, there we go. Kieran, there we go. We're back. 69 sats. I'm going to zap Kieran for helping and for the zap. Return it to him. Okay, Kieran, where are you? Let me zap there. All right, and 69 sats came through on Arnie's wallet too. So I'm going to send Kieran a little zap here. There we go. 420 sats for Kieran. Thank you, Kieran. Thank you for coming by today. Thank you for fixing the show. We are officially fucking back in the Zap streams. Love that. Thank you, Kieran. I appreciate that. All right. Sorry everybody on YouTube for that. I'll try to catch up here. Adam, good morning. Says, going to a Christmas party tonight that most people know I'm the Bitcoin guy. Let's see how many questions tonight. Adam, I'm just going to put this on pause for a second because I think that where we are right now, I was thinking that once we got to 100K, we would have like a lot of people reaching out about Bitcoin, but I haven't seen that yet. And I think that one trend I've really noticed here is that it's not really retail yet. I think it's now the traditional financial people. That's who are starting to take note now. And I think that they're starting to get a little bit worried about their clients, about their portfolio. And I think that they're finally starting to admit that they were wrong. So that's how I see it anyways. Okay. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. Sorry, folks. I can't really get to all the chats. That set us back a little bit here. Bass says, thank you, Jor, for the info you shared last week and telling me to DCA to buy the Jade. I did, and I'm grateful. Just have to manage my UTXOs now, which I did not know exist. Here we go. That's exactly why this show exists, is for stuff like that. All right. So Kieran says you have to reset up your stream key on StreamYard because I reset all the stream keys. Okay. So I might be able to go back to my original Zapstream profile. It doesn't really matter now. Now that we got the Zap showing up and I see, fuck yeah, Kieran. You're the man. And Alan Hoek also zapped 69 sats, which is showing up now. We're back. We are back. And so if you're watching this right now and you're like, what the hell is a UTXO? There's plenty of different resources on YouTube. I'm not going to explain what it is here on the live show, but just be aware that they exist. Be aware that if you have any Bitcoin, you should have a good understanding of what a UTXO is. You don't have to do anything tomorrow or this weekend. You don't have to panic, but just start paying attention to what they are and paying attention to how you buy Bitcoin, because that's where it's really a big deal. It's for people who DCA and create a whole bunch of UTXOs. And then when they go to spend that Bitcoin in the future, because there's so many UTXOs in there, it costs them a shitload of transaction fees. So just understand that every time you send Bitcoin, it creates one new UTXO. Don't worry about what a UTXO is. Every time you send Bitcoin, it creates one new UTXO. and you want to try to limit the amount of UTXOs that make up the balance in your Bitcoin wallet. So again, don't panic. If you don't know what it is, take some time and just learn a little bit about it, get a good understanding, and it'll help you navigate your Bitcoin journey a little bit better into the future. Capital gains are evil. I agree. Diesel says, I agree 100% on your Apple take, but isn't there another path for a first mover advantage and cornering the market? Great stuff. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Like if Apple had a patentable technology that they only wanted in their devices, and they kind of did that with iMessage, honestly. Because if you look at Android and Apple and the iMessage capability, it was Apple that was the ones that really prevented any other phones from using the iMessage. So in certain things, it does make sense, which was, you know, I don't agree with that. I think that everything should be open source, but I also don't run a huge tech company. So I do think that for technologies and patentable things like that, it makes sense to be the first mover and to get corner the market. But with Bitcoin, like Apple really wouldn't benefit very much from introducing Bitcoin at this stage. They wouldn't. Most people wouldn't give a shit. They wouldn't sell any more phones just because they have Bitcoin worked into it. Like they have Bitcoin wallets on their Apple store. So does Android, right? Like if you think about what would Apple gain from being the first one to adopt Bitcoin, I don't think it would be that much. I could be wrong, but you know, they got other stuff to worry about. They know what's going to happen here. Tim Cook is a Bitcoiner. He knows what's coming. And I think when that time comes, they'll be the ones introducing it to the market and really taking it to the mainstream. Jay says the cheapest I can borrow is 7%. That's too bad we're not Sailor, hey? Too bad we can't get $1 billion loan at 0%. But I'd still say 7% is pretty good, honestly. Okay, Raven says looks like we're going back above 100K today. Oh, we should. I mean, nothing's changed between then and now. The Bitcoin CEO wasn't nice enough to put Bitcoin on sale this year. Also, what happened last night? I saw that it was the biggest drop, the fastest drop in Bitcoin history. We went from $101,000 to 92 in like 3 hours. So we went from 105 to 92,000. I guess that's why they say Bitcoin's volatile for things like that. But that's a very short-term lens that they're putting on that. Okay. What else do we have here? Hey, Kyle's in the chat. Parker's in the chat. Good to see you, fellas. Okay, what else did we have here to talk about? Ooh, that's really bright. Okay, well, let's talk about a few other companies here. Yesterday, we talked about the Bitcoin well. Actually, let's give away some Bitcoin on that note. Let's give away some Biddy on that note. Sorry, this show's been kind of a scramble today. But, you know, I don't know why I keep apologizing. It is what it is. I'm doing my best. And that's all anybody could ask for, I think. Right? Okay, so let's get your phones out. Get your Lightning wallets out. Press send. And the first person who scans this QR code here is going to get some sats, free sats. So these sats are courtesy of the Bitcoin Well, which is our favorite and the best Bitcoin platform here in North America. It seems like they're gaining a lot of traction right now. I'm thinking Adam's having a pretty good month so far. There's a lot of people talking about Bitcoin Well, and they've been around for a very long time. They are a public company. They announced that they're going to be doing a Bitcoin treasury reserve, like the MicroStrategy model. And so they bought 7. This was funny to me. I didn't even really consider this. But they announced yesterday that they bought some Bitcoin on their treasury, and 7 Bitcoin. That's what they got. 7. And you know how much they paid for that 7 Bitcoin here in Canada? $1 million. And it just goes to show like how fast our currency is failing here. 7 Bitcoin, a huge announcement for this company. It's been around for 10 years, and it cost 7 Bitcoin cost them $1 million. So they bought Bitcoin, they added some Bitcoin to their balance sheet, and they're also going to be taking on some debt. They're trying to raise $2 million in convertible debt to buy more Bitcoin to add to their treasury. So it's pretty big news. But if you're in Canada, if you're in the US, highly, highly, highly recommend using Bitcoin well. And if you're in Canada, you get quite a few more features. Like, you could not ask for more features on this platform. So absolute no-brainer in Canada, but also if you're in the US, I'd say that they're a pretty solid choice as well. And I've talked to a few people in the US who've been using them, and they're very happy with them. So Bitcoin well, ready? Set? Go. $500 sats for some lucky person out there, courtesy of the Bitcoin well. So again, you can buy, set up a recurring buy, and I'm actually going to be doing part 7, I think, of multi-generational wealth next week. Is going to be talking about recurring buys. It's going to be talking about setting up Bitcoin funds. It's going to be talking about how to manage your on-chain, your Lightning, your eCash. So that's next week. So we've done 6 episodes so far. Multi-generational wealth course. It's going to be available after it's done for a small fee. But we're going to talk about recurring buys and managing funds there. So I'm guessing these have been claimed. But my favorite feature here, by far, is the swap. Free swaps. You want to move from on-chain to Lightning or Lightning to on-chain, you can do it using your Bitcoin well account. And I don't know if that's available in the US, but definitely is in Canada. I've used it a few times now, and it is phenomenal. So that's that. Congrats to whoever won that this morning. All right, how's the Zap stream going? Are we still good over there, people? I'm so glad that got worked out. I didn't want to have to stop using Zapstream. Okay, so let's roll that into this next one here, because this was another piece of news. Another, I believe, Canadian company. Hut 8. Look at this. Hut 8 miner, or Bitcoin miner Hut 8, to create a 750 million Bitcoin reserve through a 500 million ATM program and 250 million stock buyback program. So Hut 8, how much Bitcoin would that get them? $750 million would get them about 50 Bitcoin. And Sailor has 400 and some thousand Bitcoin. But to me, this makes a lot of sense. So you had Bitcoin well, which I think that without a doubt, Bitcoin well should be adding Bitcoin to their treasury. We had Marathon in the last couple of weeks. I think they raised $2 billion worth of convertible debt notes to buy Bitcoin. And now we have Hut 8, another Bitcoin miner who has decided to implement the Bitcoin strategic reserve. And it makes so much sense to me, because I think historically these Bitcoin miners have been, it's a very tough business. And I don't think that, I've been telling people not to buy Bitcoin mining stocks for that reason. Because every 4 years they have to manage things completely different. They have to think about 10, 12 years ahead of everybody else, and they have to be ready for the ups and downs of Bitcoin. And I do think that some of the volatility is going to go down as we move forward here, as we talked about. But for Bitcoin miners, it just makes so much sense to me to be able to set up this strategic reserve that you can always tap into if you need to. Because what a lot of these Bitcoin miners have had to do in the past is they've, you know, if they have a pool running and they have to make payouts to the people adding hash to their pool, and depending on how that's structured, a lot of these companies get into big trouble. And that's just one aspect of it. But if you had a Bitcoin reserve there that you held on to for a while, and with a long-term vision of like 5-10 years, if you just sit on that for a while, that's going to give you way much more cushion during the down days. So I think that's an absolute no-brainer, just because they're tied directly to Bitcoin, for one, like that's their whole industry. But also because of the volatility within their operations, I think having something like a strategic reserve and using debt to do that, it just makes so much sense. So you're helping yourself, you're giving yourself a really nice cushion for future operations. Plus you're allowing a vehicle for the debt, the people who do want to buy these bonds or these through the ATM program, you're giving them a vehicle to do that. So it's a win-win for both sides, right? It just makes so much sense to me. So historically, I have said don't buy any mining shares, but I'm obviously going to start changing my message to that, because we've seen Marathon and Hut 8 in the last couple of months now announced there. And I think that it's a big one in the US too. Core Scientific. I think they've already had a Bitcoin strategic reserve for a while now. So that's Hut 8. I don't know what's the stock market doing today for the Hut 8s and the Bitcoin wells and the micro strategies. How are we looking? Oh, big jump, big dip, big jump. 390 for micro strategy today. What's Hut 8 doing after their announcement? A little jump. Nothing crazy. What about Bitcoin well? 20 cents today, up 5%. So still nothing crazy. The majority of people, and this is why people watching the show and people who are in Bitcoin right now, why there's such a huge opportunity, is because most people have no clue what's going on here. So it's like these announcements are great for us and for these companies, but like most people don't understand it. Most people have no idea what's going on with MicroStrategy and with any of these other companies we're talking about here. All right, what else we got going on here? Yeah, Parker said the biggest 5-minute candle in any direction in history happened yesterday. So it's good. Good to see. It's what we want. We want volatility. As Saylor says, volatility is vitality. Flash crash liquidation. Yeah, I don't know what causes that. I don't know, what triggers it, but if you're like me, you're completely unaffected by it. And that's where you want to get to, I think. You can make money with leverage and trading, but it's like it just takes so much energy, takes so much stress, adds so much stress to your life. It's just like, just buy and just hold on to it. Go in with a very long-term plan as if you're never going to sell Bitcoin. And then you don't have to worry about it at all. There's really not, it's very Zen-like. And I think that's where you want to be in life. Parker says, make 1,000 sats for per day is getting hard. Yeah, it is, but it's a pretty good goal, I think. I think that if everybody kind of had that goal of like earning, and I talked about this on a podcast I was on lately. I forget who it was. It might have been the Bitcoin Amigos. But I said like a couple months ago, and there's people in this chat here, I can see their faces right now, who were part of this. And the challenge was to earn 100 sats for 100 days. And again, I'll share this clip with you guys, because this is kind of what made me think about this and talk about it. What was it though? Hold on. Bitcoin strategy. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the videos on the Bitcoin Amigos channel. But I was talking about this. I said it's easy to say, that's what it was. It was the world divided by 21 million right here. And I'm not going to play the, because I think that's pretty self-centered. But what I talked about this in this clip from the Bitcoin Amigo show is that the world, everything divided by 21 million, because we've talked about real estate. We've talked about all the assets. That's the true value of Bitcoin and sats. Is if you take all the assets, the real assets on earth, and you divide it by 21 million, that's what you get for the real value of Bitcoin. And I said that the 21, everything divided by 21 million is like a good catchphrase. But until you really deeply understand that, until you feel that in your life, until you can actually feel that everything is going to be divided by 21 million, then you don't really know where this thing is going. And I said the best thing that you can do for that, and just to really change your headspace on this, is make your own challenge. And don't wait for January 1st. Start today and say, for the next 100 days, I'm going to earn 100 sats per day. I don't care if it's only 1 cent worth of fiat. That's not what, until you move past that point, you're never going to fully understand Bitcoin. So try to get 100 sats every day for 100 days. And at the end of it, what are you going to have? 10,000 sats maybe? Probably some days you'll get more than that, but that's not the idea here. It's not about the fiat price. It's not about, how much you get. It is really understanding the value of those sats and building habits in your life where, whether it's listening to a podcast on Fountain, whether it's listening to some songs on Wavelake, doing a couple surveys on ZBD, just get into a habit of every single day getting 100 sats. Because once you start to understand that, you understand how valuable those 100 sats are, even though the fiat price will tell you that it's worth 1 cent or 10 cents or whatever it is. But understand that everything on earth, every real asset divided by 21 million, that's the value of Bitcoin. So 100 sats, even though it says 10 cents, those are going to be extremely valuable. So you're going to start living that, and you're going to start setting up your life in a way where you're earning consistent sats flow. So do that for 100 days. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Okay, how did that happen? Somebody sent 21 sats to the Coinos wallet just now. I'm confused. I'm confused here. Alan says, this is a good point too. And this is I share the same sentiment as Alan. Says, when I start worrying about my UTXOs, I'm going to go out and buy me some tuxedos. And I think that people do get really caught up in their UTXOs and trying to get 1 million sat UTXOs. It's when you actually go to spend this Bitcoin in the future, if you ever do, you don't need to have 1 million sat UTXOs. If you're spending 1 million sats on one transaction in the future, that better be a fucking house, right? And if you're buying a house, I think it's okay to lump a few of your UTXOs together to pay for a house. But that's kind of the view I want people to take, is it's good to pay attention to UTXOs, but don't try to stretch yourself out and put your funds at risk by trying to get to 1 million sats before you send it. That's too much. My minimum for UTXOs is 100,000 sats. And the reason it's that low, or I guess high in my eyes, but that's what I plan on spending in the future. I don't plan on spending any until 100,000 sats will get me a sizable purchase. I'm not going to spend a UTXO on a t-shirt. So that's how I see it. And I don't know if that's what you're trying to say there, Alan, but that's kind of my take on it. Oh, I didn't see this, Bodie. Pray for Pete Hegseth. His news conference yesterday was fire. I didn't see this. Media wants to try him in court of public opinion, but he's having none of it. Where's that? Who's Pete? Who's Pete? I'll look him up. We got the time. It's Friday. We're going to pretty much just be streaming the whole day today. Pete Hegseth. Who's this fella? I don't know who this is. I've never seen him before. I don't know. Oh, he's it looks like a Trump administration pick. That's good. I also saw that David Sachs was picked by Trump as the crypto czar. Wow. How about that? How about that? Like, I mean, it's just things are adding up and lining up so well right now. It's just like crazy to me. It almost seems too good to be true, which is kind of sad to say. Space MK says, is this pre-recorded? No, it's not. I just can't get to all the comments today. Diego's in the chat. Good morning, my friend. Oh, Department of Defense. Gotcha. Hey, Kyle's in the chat too. And Lori says, don't trade HODL only. Great advice. Great advice from Lori. Okay, we had another Zap here. 69 sats becoming popular today. Quick hello before going back to the grindstone. Thank you for that. I don't know who that's from, but thank you for that. Okay, so let's get to the main part of the show today, which is Bitcoin is for the people. So hold on here. One more comment before we go. Pete, military vet, good guy, getting smeared by the media. Classic. Isn't that what happened with what's his name too? Gates, Matt Gates. Scotty says, any thoughts on moving a Roth IRA to a Bitcoin IRA? I don't know much about Bitcoin IRAs. I don't either. We don't have them here in Canada. So I think it's possible. I think you're probably going to have to pay a bunch of fees with that to move it to hire somebody to help you do that. So what I would probably recommend, honestly, is look into some companies that you can easily buy if you can self-direct your investments into just any company that's associated with Bitcoin right now. You're going to get a lot of growth in that without paying any sort of fees to move it out into a Bitcoin IRA, even a Bitcoin IRA. It's not Bitcoin. So any money that you have out of the system, that goes into Bitcoin and holding it yourself. Any money in the system goes to MicroStrategy, Semler, Bitcoin Well, Marathon, Hut 8, Bitcoin ETF, right? Keep the two separate. Don't get wrapped up in like a Bitcoin IRA because it's still not Bitcoin. It's just exposure, just like MicroStrategy is, just like some other ones are. But Hasib says, I Trust Capital is really good for IRA. There you go. I'm not in the US. I don't know anything about that, but that's just the strategy that I use here in Canada. Is any money outside the system, Bitcoin, cold storage, any money in the system and pensions, savings accounts, whatever it is, that goes into Bitcoin related public companies. Okay. So back to what we were saying here. So Adam earlier in the show said that he was going to a Christmas party tonight. And because he's known as the Bitcoiner in his circles, he was worried about, or not worried, but wondering how many people would be asking him about Bitcoin right now since it hit 100K. And, I've been saying on this channel for a while now that I think that once it gets to 100K, there's going to be a lot of people start paying attention. And that's probably true. But in my own circle, I haven't really noticed that yet. I haven't got a whole lot of texts other than from Bitcoiners who were pumped about it. But it didn't really trigger anything. And I don't know if it's because it took so long to get there. It was like over 2 weeks, I think. But it's not happening in my life. But the one thing I have noticed is that the financial advisors, the people who are in traditional finance, the people who have been bashing Bitcoin for the last decade, are now starting to come out and say and admit that they were wrong. So I want to start with this. Daniel, still not, zaps aren't showing up. That's shitty, Daniel. I don't know if it's a you problem or a me problem, but anyways, let's get to this video here that I wanted to share from the Lame Stream Media. Oh, man. I'll tell you a story about the lamestream media after we talk about this. So let's start with this clip. And this is what I'm talking about here. Guys like this are starting to admit that they were wrong. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So let's watch this. This is a minute long clip. And see how the traditional finance world is reacting to what's happening here in Bitcoin. All right, let's bring her up.
So he's the president chief investment officer at Neuberger Berman, which has $509 billion in assets under management, and they're not all in Bitcoin. I don't think.
They are not.
They are not. Maybe they should be?
Given that it's up 47% since the election, I guess we missed it. But it's been certainly an interesting ride. And I do think there are developments there from a regulatory standpoint, potentially a legislative standpoint, that have built some of that enthusiasm, together with a little bit of the sort of animal spirits that have been created since November 11th.
What do you tell clients about Bitcoin?
Well, we tell them to be very careful. Look, I admit I've been a skeptic over the years because of some of the things that you just quoted Powell on in terms of its store of value. It's not a currency equivalent, right? It is a speculative asset. And we say, be very, very careful. Be very careful. We don't have it in client assets right now. There are ways to play it through the exchanges, but certainly it's getting the attention, and we're getting lots of questions about it.
40% since the election, but 60% ARR for 15 years or 10 or 15 years. So, I mean, you've missed it.
We have missed that.
Yeah.
We did miss the U.S. equity market, though, so we got that, which has been a strong performer over the last
He's got that
decade.
going for him.
Oh my God. So good. So good. It's crazy to me that he just goes on the air. He's just smiling about it. He's just laughing. Yeah, we missed Bitcoin. We missed our clients getting 60% returns every year. But we still had the US equity market. That done pretty well for us. It drives me nuts, honestly. It drives me nuts, the fact that these financial advisors take people's money. And I know some of them don't have like a legal fiduciary duty to manage their clients' wealth as best as they can, but inherently they do. I don't know if it's legal or what the regulation is around that, but like a humanity aspect of it, of like doing the right thing. You're a financial advisor and you've missed Bitcoin. You shouldn't have zero clients. You should be working at Walmart. Honestly, how do you miss this? As Joe said there, 15 years, 60% return. It's not like this thing just came out last year and people are still unsure about it. Like, you have a history of 15 years of 60% annual return, and you're still telling people to be very careful with it. I don't mean to get riled up here. I need to calm down here a little bit, because I have to remember that I am live on the internet. But it kills me. And there's people like this guy. There's people like Peter Schiff. There's people like Jim Cramer. These people of the world, they don't care about anybody. They don't give a shit about anybody. All they care about is themselves, about their fee that they get every year off of people. Like, how do you miss this? You're a financial advisor and you're missing the greatest financial asset that has ever existed. And I get there are reasons, there's a lot of things at risk here with their jobs, but like, I just don't get it. And he's up there laughing about the fact that he was wrong. He doesn't give a shit. He's probably worth $1 billion. And that's why I titled this, Bitcoin is for the people, because I hope people like this dipshit, he probably owns Bitcoin himself. He's just unwilling to put his reputation at risk for the betterment of his clients. And I get it. You don't have to put 100% of the client funds into Bitcoin, but like 2%, you've seen an asset go up 60% every year for 15 years and you have a 0% allocation. You're a fucking moron. And it just drives me nuts that he sits up there on TV after all of his clients missed out on that. I didn't expect to get fired up there. I really didn't. But it's like, what are we? I don't know. Here's another one. This is actually from Sky News, and this is a little bit more lighthearted, and this is why I titled the show Bitcoin is for the People, because he doesn't directly say this, but he says it. So let's play this one here. This is from, I don't know where Sky News is from. England, maybe? Australia? I don't know. But let's watch this. This is, again, a little bit more lighthearted. I'm not going to get fired up after watching this. Hopefully.
The moment as we speak, and the big trigger for that yesterday was the appointment, or the announcement of the appointment of who Donald Trump will be picking for SEC chair. That's the Securities and Exchange Commission. Paul Atkins, who's a sort of crypto-friendly appointment, replacing Gary Gensler, who is seen as not particularly crypto-friendly. And Kay, in the last few months since the election, it has surged by 48%. A snapshot there that people think the Trump administration is going to be more pro-crypto, not just in the Biden administration, but then the first Trump administration. It's up 140% this year. But that chart was important to show because it's up many multiples in the last few years, and the people that have made a fortune in it have made enormous fortunes from very little numbers. I do need a quick extra point to just say about that. It's not like it's created equality, Bitcoin, clearly, but there's a difference to when we see house prices surge or stock market surge, where the people that get more wealthy tend to be the CEOs of this world, the establishment figures who are already quite wealthy. What Bitcoin has done, it has made extraordinarily wealthy individuals out of sort of disruptors and people from different walks of life. And in that sense, you would say it's good. It's not creating equality per se, but it's less bad than a surge in the wealth of people who are already wealthy.
It's not good, but it's less bad. I mean, I don't know if he, worded that perfectly, but he's on the right track, I think. And his message there, I completely agree with. And he said, usually when housing prices, when gold, when these different assets, when stocks go up, it's usually the rich that gets richer because they are the ones who hold these assets. And a lot of them, you have to be some sort of accredited investor. You have to have X amount of down payment. You already have to have wealth to become wealthy. That's how the old system was. But with Bitcoin, you don't need to be an accredited investor to be part of this. You don't need $25,000 to put a down payment just so your purchasing power can go, can stay on par with the inflation. You don't need that. You can take $20, you can buy 20,000 sats. And if you sit on those 20,000 sats for the next 10 years, you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of some of these dipshits on TV. You don't need anything. Bitcoin is for the people. And the other part of that I wanted to mention was that he said that typically when stuff like this happens, it is the rich people who get richer. But with Bitcoin, it's the disruptors. It's the disruptors who are getting rich here. And so it sounds pretty good right now. It's fun to do a little TV clip on it. But you have to watch this thing play out over these next couple decades. And the disruptors who are holding the Bitcoin right now in any sort of amount, again, 1 Bitcoin, 50 million sats, 1 million sats, 200,000 sats. In a couple decades from now, the disruptors, us, the people who are holding Bitcoin right now, are going to be the ones with influence in the future. And what does the world look like when it's a whole bunch of rich people who can print money and who get value from assets going up? What does that world look like? Versus a world where the disruptors, the average person, the people who believe in truth, transparency, and freedom, when that power shifts from those reptiles to the disruptors, how much different does the world look at that point? And yes, it's going to take a while to play out, but Bitcoin is for the people, and the future of Bitcoin and the future of our society with Bitcoiners in charge with influence is going to look night and day compared to what it is today. The system we have now is very manipulative, very controlled, very closed source. And we're going to move into a world as the wealth transfers from that group to the disruptors, to the people who want open source, freedom, transparency, honesty, the world looks completely different. So that's what excites me most about Bitcoin, is not just my personal holdings, but the fact that I know who's holding Bitcoin right now. I know the kind of person who's holding Bitcoin right now. He called them disruptors, but it is a totally different mentality of Bitcoin. And somebody in the chat earlier said that Bitcoin's not a currency, it's money. I don't think it's either of those two things. I mean, that's what we're going to use it for, but Bitcoin itself is just a completely different system. That's what it is. It's a completely different mentality and a completely different lifestyle. And that's what I failed to grasp, I think, for the first couple of years while I was in Bitcoin, was that this thing isn't just a money. It's not just an investment. This is a whole different way of looking at things in the world. And to me, it's logic. To me, it's common sense. This is how things should have always been. But when you give a small group of people the ability to create money, things go south. And it leads us to where we are today. And thank God for Bitcoin. And thank God that people, the disruptors of the world, as he called them, are going to be the ones who hold influence in the future. So there's my rant for today. Alan Howick is here to disrupt. I love that. Me too. Me too. Fuck that system. So, I mean, we started the show on a very positive note. We end the show on a very positive note. I'm going to catch up a little on the chat here. And then we're going to... Oh, there we go. We got some sats from South Africa. 100 sats from Nick in South Africa. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. I hear Arnie walking around. Maybe he'll show up. Arn? Do you want to come say thanks to all the people who zapped you? No, he's hiding. He's camera shy now. I don't know what's going on with that guy. So as soon as I end it, he just comes and sits here for the rest of the day. But it's almost like he knows that he's on camera. It's kind of weird. I mean, he's got a pretty good sense. I think animals have a better sense than people in a lot of ways. Okay, so sorry about those rants. I got a little bit carried away with the financial advisors maybe. But, you know, I call it as I see it. Raven. And it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how that whole thing plays out. Like with the financial advisors in the next decade or so. It's going to be very interesting. I think that there are financial advisors who are already into Bitcoin. I know a few of them myself, and who are doing the right thing for their clients. And I think that they are going to be the ones that are around in 10 years from now. And I think if you think about it that way, if you think about it through that lens, if you're on the side of like Bitcoin is either going to 0 or 1 billion, if you understand that, like if you understand that this thing either fails or it succeeds, and let's go on to the assumption that it succeeds. So I think that that's going to be the main difference over this next decade for success and failure. The financial advisors who fail to adopt Bitcoin and embrace Bitcoin are going to fail. The ones who do embrace it, do have the best interests for their clients, are going to be the ones that are around. Because it's not like we're just going to have Bitcoin and everything else dies. That's not how it's going to work. There's still going to be a need to manage wealth and assets, and Bitcoin's going to be a big part of that. But that's financial advisors. Then you think about businesses. Businesses who fail to embrace, adopt, and hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet are going to fail. And it's not so much like accepting right now. I don't think that that's the biggest aspect here. I think it's the businesses who are turning their profits and their balance sheet into Bitcoin. Those are going to be the ones who succeed in 10 years from now. So we got financial advisors, we got companies, and countries is going to be the exact same thing. The countries who embrace this technology, embrace this asset, make it easy for their citizens to use, to hold, to transact, to eliminate the tax on that, those are going to be the countries that are around in 10 years from now and add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. The companies like Chile, the companies like France, the companies who are trying to stop Bitcoin are not going to be around in 10 years. So that's going to be the difference in every aspect of society. The people who, and individuals, it's going to be no different. And I don't wish that any individual will fail. I think that even in a sense of people who are the last to adopt Bitcoin are still going to benefit from Bitcoin. But the ones who are here today are going to be the ones who have influence in the future. So I think for this next decade, we're going to see that really go like this. And the difference there of the path is going to be embracing Bitcoin and not embracing Bitcoin. For financial advisors, for companies, for countries, and for individuals, it's going to be the exact same throughout. And Bitcoin is going to be the variable. Lori, 80% of all dollars were printed in the last 5 years. Crazy. It's crazy, but it's also not crazy because they don't really have a choice. The part that's crazy to me is that how many people are failing to realize that that's a big problem and failing to realize that there is a solution, and that's Bitcoin. Oh, we broke 100K again. Look at that. This week we would have been popping fucking champagne bottles on the air. No, we didn't, did we? I don't see it. Fuel for the soul. Love your videos. Thank you. Appreciate that. Lori says we're all fired up too. You just can't hear us. Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. 21 Spiel Sats. Good morning. Hi, Joe brother. Can you explain why MicroStrategy isn't moving back to all-time high with Bitcoin? I mean, MicroStrategy, if you look at like day to day, it never moves exactly with Bitcoin ever. And I don't really know the reason for that. I think that because there's bigger money, I think, in MicroStrategy. I think that they still have the ability to manipulate that a little bit more as opposed to Bitcoin. Bitcoin runs 24/7, 365. So there's always going to be variations of like when Bitcoin's running up versus when MicroStrategy is running up. But if you just zoom out a little bit, you can see that MicroStrategy and Bitcoin are going up together, obviously, because MicroStrategy is directly tied. It's based on Bitcoin. But of course, there's always going to be like, there's different holders. There's different people who own MicroStrategy. There's different people who own Bitcoin. And, you know, some people might be trading their MicroStrategy more than some people who are holding Bitcoin. I don't think there's like one answer of why they're not moving together. I think it's just a combination of much different assets. Even though they're based on the same asset, there's different people trading them. There's different people holding them. There's bigger money holding them. And so it's never going to move the exact same. Different markets. One's 24/7, one's 9 to 5. What a time to be alive, no doubt. No doubt. And this is another part too. This is a good point from Raven here. I think Saylor sold some shares yesterday. So Saylor has a couple different ways of getting money to buy Bitcoin. Convertible debt, selling shares, two main ones. But for the most part, like when he's selling shares, that's obviously causing the price to go down. And oddly enough, when he buys Bitcoin, it doesn't go up. So there's still a big disconnect, even though they are based on the same asset. There's still a different thing happening there. Senor Gringo Poppy. Great name. Told my coworkers I'm putting my bonus in Bitcoin. They laughed at me. Although I did it last year and it went to the moon. Who cares? Be like that mayor in New York. He was mocking people. He said, "You guys all laughed at me when I took my salary in Bitcoin. Now who's laughing?" That's all that matters. It's not important who's laughing now. It's important who's laughing last. And we know who's going to be laughing last. Bitcoin in Canada right now, 140,000 Canadian dollars. Wild. Dave from the UK. Good morning, Dave. Good to see you. Hey, we got another Lori in the chat, unless she changed her picture. No, looks like a different Lori. Bitcoin is a global equalizer. You get it or you don't. Truth. Truth, truth, truth. Okay, what else do we have here? Josh says, my union business manager chastised a member for suggesting our pension fund looking into Bitcoin. He mocked the member for even suggesting that, said it was gambling. Honestly, our business manager is a tyrant idiot. Well, as we just talked about, that business is probably going to fail. Even if they have great, I shouldn't say that. I don't think they're going to fail just because they're late to adopt Bitcoin. If they got a great product and they're earning, if they're giving value, they're going to get value back in the form of Bitcoin. But they're going to be much further behind. And the competitors to whatever business you're in who adopt Bitcoin are going to be much further ahead than the people who don't do it. Right? So I should make that kind of clear. I should have cleared that up a little bit. Like, just if you're a business and you're late to adopt Bitcoin, that doesn't mean you're going to fail. You just missed out on a huge opportunity. And any of your competitors who did adopt Bitcoin and start holding Bitcoin in the treasury are going to have so much more collateral and leverage into the future than you do. So it might fail eventually, just because they're going to have so much more leverage to invest in their business, to invest in their people. It just makes sense that way. Jason says, Josh, Dom Bay should have a chat with him. He's onboarding unions all over the US. Interesting. Interesting. Bodhi says, glad you're thanking God for Bitcoin. I mean, who else would we thank? Who else would we thank? Hey, Bodhi. Bodhi makes this comment over in YouTube and zaps 4,200 sats for the Bitcoin people and their dogs. Together we will disrupt and win. Amen to that, Bodhi. So that is going to Fat Zap Friday. The zaps are going to Arnie today. And there it is. It showed up here. Thank you, Bodhi. Very much appreciate that. That is a fat ass zap, a fatty, as we would call it. And I hope everybody shows up for our Bitcoin Amigos panel this afternoon. We'll give you a little break. Give you a little break from listening to my voice for a while. But 4 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be showing up the Bitcoin Amigos inaugural stream on the new channel. See if anybody took my plea. A couple people did. So again, do this now. Don't wait till after the show. You're probably not going to miss anything here in the next 30 seconds. But I want you, if you're in YouTube right now, just open up your main screen, search Bitcoin Amigos, go over there and subscribe. Support us a little bit here. We're going to be working for free for a little while, I think. Maybe a long time, but that doesn't matter. So just do what you can. It's free to do. We're not going to be spamming people. It's Jerry Loves Freedom, our guy. Chris from Fractal Bitcoin, the greatest Bitcoin music producer in history. And myself, every Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. I hope you join us, but I also hope you go over there and subscribe to the channel. Right meow. Look at this beautiful graphic there. The mules. We were almost called the 3 mules, but I like the Bitcoin Amigos much better. What a show. Love Fridays. Love me some Fridays. Gringo Poppy says, I'm watching from the ATL, Georgia, but I like to see the Canadian perspective. Captain Codeman says, it's just like the US perspective, but 1.4x cheaper. Yeah, same kind of thing. And that's why I think that, we talked about the US and Trump and, the liberation of Canada, maybe when he takes office. And to me, like the US and Canada are much more similar than they are different. So it just makes sense to me. If you had an adult in charge and you looked at all the natural resources in the US and in Canada, this is just completely my made up number here, but I would estimate that we're probably using about less than 5% of our resources. And a lot of it isn't because of decisions, but a lot of it is because until Bitcoin, a lot of this energy was stranded, especially up north here where I live. Up north here, you look at the Yukon, you look at Northwest Territories, you look at north of like Ontario, Northern Ontario, there's just so much energy there that has never been able to be utilized before, never been able to be captured before. Because if you think about the investment, like if you think about the investment of setting it up energy, like infrastructure, the cost of that, like you have, like let's use a remote location up here in Manitoba as an example. There's a ton of energy up there between a lot of it would be hydro energy, but then you look at like in the Yukon, there's oil, and in different parts of northern Alberta, there's oil, there's hydro, there's all this energy out there that's just like going to waste right now. Because if you think about how much an investment it is to build the infrastructure there, to have people move up there, to pay them to be up there, by the time you realize those costs and making a return on your investment, you're looking at like a couple decades, right? For all that to play out. And then you have to build a whole community around there. It's just so much to do. And so that's why all that energy is stranded, because it costs so much with a very small return and a very long time frame on it. And that's best case. But if you use that energy, hydro, oil, wind, solar, I mean, not so much solar in the north here, but like in different parts of North America, you don't need a community around it. You don't need a huge infrastructure. You can immediately set up shop. You can immediately convert that natural energy into money, into Bitcoin. You don't have to. And the other part of that too is if you're in a remote location, the reason why you need a community around it, because someone has to use that energy. You can't just send energy wherever you want to. It only travels so far. But if you hook up to a Bitcoin miner, you don't have to sell it to anybody. You don't need to find a buyer. You don't need to send it anywhere. You just use that energy, you capture it, and you convert that directly into Bitcoin. So then you can earn a return on your investment that you put into it much faster. And you don't have to worry about any of the other bullshit that I just talked about there. So that's why I think that Bitcoin is going to be the catalyst. And whether the US and Canada join forces or not, once we have an adult in the room here in Canada, like this country is just going to absolutely flourish. It's exciting. And it's not limited to North America too. I think Africa is going to be the same. Argentina. There's a whole bunch of different parts of the world who have just been stomped down by the fiat dollar, by an inability to capture that energy. That's now going to be completely unlocked. TWT says, thanks to your education, I put my whole IRA into MicroStrategy once Trump won, and stacking sats every day. Appreciate your work in education. Well, it sounds like you've been doing pretty good then. I mean, I don't give financial advice here. I just tell you what I'm doing and the reason why I'm doing it. I'd never tell you to. The only guarantee financial advice that I would give you, the only advice that I would give you is to buy Bitcoin and set up your own hardware device and keep the Bitcoin yourself. Manage your keys. That's the only investment advice I would ever give anybody of any amount. Could be 2% of your portfolio, it could be 20%, but the only investment advice I would ever give anybody is just get some exposure to Bitcoin and hold it yourself. That's number one, by far. Oh, Lori changed her picture. I got you. Who's that now? Looks like a Bitcoin photo. Can't see. Look at that. Brandon. Gringo Poppy. I'm in Atlanta too. Atlanta was one of the craziest cities I've ever been through. Fucking massive. It felt like we drove, like we were going from here to Florida. And so we had to go through Atlanta to get there. And it felt like we were driving through Atlanta for like an hour and a half. I never thought we were going to leave Atlanta. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. I've never seen anything like that before. Bass says, can't scan the Bitcoin Wall QR code. What do you mean? Like for the toss? I hope you're not still trying to scan that. That was like half an hour ago. But you might be talking about something else. That's why I asked. Like if you got some free tosses into there and you can't scan it. I'm thinking that's what you mean. But I don't know. Okay. So let's check on our Bitcoin amigos, see if anybody listened. Yeah, one person. Thank you. Thank you. One person out of 70 people in here. I'm thinking most of you already subscribed though, so I'm not going to be too hard on you. Okay, so that was on screen. So, I mean, for anybody watching this who wants to be part of the Bitcoin well in the future, like with the toss, all you need is like a Lightning wallet and you have to press send. You don't press receive, you press send. And I mean, sometimes as bad, like I had I had issues topping up my Zap stream balance today with the QR code. So they can be very finicky. So it might not be you. It might be just the screen or your phone. It's probably not you. So, wow, look at this. Look at this comment from Alan. I'm going to my local coin shop today to buy $200 worth of pennies for face value. A copper penny is worth about 4 cents in metal value. Hoarding copper pennies is a no-brainer. I should probably buy $200 worth of Bitcoin, but I'm addicted to hoarding cheap copper. I mean, so a penny is obviously 1 cent, and it has 4 cents worth of copper in it. I mean, if you got the time, if you got the energy, if you got the drive to do that, like that's one way to convert fiat into Bitcoin is you just take the spread there, the 3 cents per penny, and you turn that into Bitcoin. You actually have to sell the copper though. That's what I would say is don't hoard it. Like sell the copper and then buy some Bitcoin with that. Pretty smart. I like that. I love stuff like that. Sorry, one more thing on that. Like I love when people like find things that they can, what was that called even? Not the spread. What is it called when you do something like that? Anyways, one thing that I love doing, and I've been doing this for years now, but I'll say two things similar to that. But the one thing that I do and have been doing is you just buy something like locally, like you can buy something at like Value Village and make sure it's something that you can ship very cheaply. But you buy something locally that, you know, a lot of people in your city might not really understand, or, you know, whatever it is. It's a very small market. When you're selling something locally, it's a very small market. And you take that, let's say you pay $5 for a shirt at Value Village. It's probably more like 10 now because they're fucking scammers. But let's say you pay $10 for this t-shirt locally. That's the price. Then you take it globally and you list it on like a Bitcoin website. Like I think it used to be called Sats Crap, but it's something else now. But you take something locally and you sell it globally, and that's how you can earn like a spread there. And the other thing that I do is you actually take seasonal stuff. So you take like hockey cards or football cards or baseball cards, and you buy a bunch in the off season when nobody cares about it. You know, in the case of hockey, it would be from like June till August. That's your window. And you buy a bunch of hockey cards or whatever it is. I'm using hockey cards as an example here. You buy it cheap when nobody cares. Nobody's looking for it. And then in like January, February, March, when people are all watching hockey and are interested in that, and you sell them. And if you do that at scale, if you do that with a bunch of money, like you can easily convert thousands into tens of thousands of dollars doing that. Arbitrage. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Arbitrage. Yes. Oh, Spaceman said that and Alan said that over there. My bad. That's exactly what I was looking for. But if you can find things like that, and another one, hold on. And this is actually one of my really good buddies who does this. And I don't think I'll be ruining his strategy here. But what he does is he buys, like, he has a specific thing. So, and that's what I would suggest too. I would find something very specific. Don't try to do like a whole bunch of different things, but he finds his thing is, let's call it campers. It's pretty close to what he does, but it's a little bit different. So you take a camper, you buy it locally from somebody who's just getting rid of it through an auction or through a marketplace, whatever it is. You take it locally in your area, you buy it, you clean it up. You don't have to do any sort of repairs. I mean, you could, but all you have to do is just make it look perfect. Clean it up, spend a couple hours on Sunday cleaning it up, take some really good pictures of it, put a good description in there, and sell it to a wider market. So if you bought it in like your town marketplace, buy it, clean it up, take some really good pictures of it, and sell it to like 3 provinces around you or 3 states around you. Even if you have to drive it 10 hours to sell it to somebody for double what you paid, that's a huge arbitrage, flipping, whatever you want to call it. Like, and again, be very specific with it. Don't try to do this with like things that you don't know about, or try to do it like campers one week and then putters the next week and then hockey cards after that. Like, dial in on one thing, become very good at that, know the market, and you can make a lot of money doing that. And I think that there will be people in the next couple of years here make a lot of money from doing stuff like that. And if you convert that into sats, you're going to be even further ahead. Buy all the Cabbage Patch dolls and PS5s. Yeah. Same. I think that's a little bit more, I don't know. I don't know the word I'm looking for there. But anyways, we're over 2 hours here. It's been a good show. The coffee is officially out. So I'm going to go do a podcast right now. I'm going to do the second part of the show. And then we're going to do our Bitcoin Amigos stream today. So if you enjoyed it today, if you learned anything, if you were entertained by the rants, I want you to consider a few things. Number one, you can send a zap to Arnie. It's his birthday this weekend, and I'll be reviewing his financials later today with him. So you can send a zap there. And I'll put up his address here too if you don't use the QR code stuff. So you can send him a zap there. His birthday's on Sunday, but I mean, we're not going to be doing a show on Sunday. The second thing, go subscribe to the Bitcoin Amigos channel. Free to do. Not asking you to do anything outside of that, you know. But we're going to, and show up today. We're going to have a really good chat. I love both those guys. We're going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. That's kind of what it is. It's more of a fun show. Won't be any like serious rants like I do on here. Maybe though. Who knows? And the other thing too is I really want, this is the main thing. Like, it's fun to send Arnie sats and stuff like that, but this is the main thing. If you're serious about this stuff, if you're serious about protecting your Bitcoin, if you're serious about expanding your Bitcoin network, meeting other Bitcoiners, it is a very lonely place. And I've said that before, but it's the absolute truth. It's a very lonely place in your real life. And so what we're doing in Living the Future is we're building our networks. We're leaving fiat system. We're starting different ventures in Bitcoin, and we're just helping each other. That's it. So if you are serious about protecting your Bitcoin, so there's an education aspect to it. And if you're serious about meeting other Bitcoiners and growing your Bitcoin network, the network aspect of it, then I want you to join. It's the second thing down from the show notes. It says Living in the Future. It's $5 a month. Actually, somebody who's in this chat here today sent me a message last night saying, my one piece of advice for you is charge more money. He said, this community, the Living in the Future community, is worth way more than you're charging for it. And I said, yeah, I've thought about that too. And I do agree, but I'm also not in the business of ripping people off. And I think that people can sense that. So, you know, I don't see any need to do that. I don't have any plans to raise the prices in that community. I might offer different tiers in the future, but I really want to make it accessible to anybody who wants to be involved. That's the whole point of it. Bitcoin is for the people. Things like Living in the Future are for the people. And so that's what I would say to that. And the more people that join, obviously the less likely I am to raise the prices, but the more people that join, the more powerful that network becomes. So I have a course in there called Multi-Generational Wealth. that would be worth 2 years worth of your monthly memberships just to watch that. We're on episode 7 next week. We've done passphrases, decoy wallets, UTXO management. I did best practices last time, and there's a couple other ones in there. 6 episodes so far. Next week, we're talking about managing your Lightning wallets, managing your flow of Bitcoin to try to reduce current and future fees. And so that's what I'd say to that. Hey, Rajesh. Good to see you, my friend. Great to see you. Long time no see. There we go. Rajesh is in the house. And one more thing here, because this is important. That was kind of my spiel, but I want to, if you are in that boat, somebody who's just kind of getting into Bitcoin, or you're looking to protect your Bitcoin better, at the very top of the show notes, there's a link for QuickBit. They are a brick and mortar Bitcoin shop in Regina. They're the only brick and mortar shop that I'm aware of in Canada. Great people. I've been in there. I've talked with Dale, Leander, a bunch of different times. And the main thing that we wanted to do here with this 88 sats bundle is just make sure that anybody can just order it and they don't have to worry about anything else. Right? So you order this package, it comes in a box. You have your jade, you have your stamp seed, you have everything that you need. You don't have to go anywhere else. You don't have to worry about anything else. Everything comes in one kit. And you can use the jade as an air-gapped device. So you get the air-gapped device, the jade, the trading cards, and the stamp seed. This beautiful piece of, what would you call it? A hammer, an anvil, a guide, the plate, and the punches, letters. So keep in mind here, I think that if you are kind of like the first person in your family to be buying Bitcoin and to be storing your Bitcoin properly, keep in mind that you're not going to have to buy one of these every time. Like, let's say you got a couple buddies, or you got your brother, your sister, your cousins. You're not all going to have to buy this. All you're going to have to do is get these stamp seeds. And I think they're $30 maybe. So you can be like the person in your family who has this to help your whole family protect their wealth against fire, against water, against all the elements. That can be you. So it's $425. Use the code 88sats. That gets you 15% off of that. And it looks like we've sold a few there, which is good. So I talked with Dale and Leander this week. And so the 8 have been sold. So unfortunately, you don't get a free consultation with me anymore, but you do get 15% off. So highly recommend that for anybody out there who's looking to better protect their Bitcoin. And again, that's right at the top of the show notes. And use the code 88sats. There we go. Look at that. Kev says, I placed an order, looking forward to it. Well, Kev, I think if you ordered it before, I don't know, we'll have to get in touch, but I think it was before sometime this week, before we sold out of the 8 that I promised a consultation with. So I think you're probably in that category unless you just ordered it today. But either way, reach out to me and I'll help you get her going there for sure. And there is also, I forgot to mention this too. This is for anybody out there. This isn't for everybody. The starter kit is. This one isn't for everybody, but this is a multi-sig bundle too. I wanted to make this part of the 88 sats page here. So you get a cold card queue and you get 2 jades plus the stamp seed. So this one's $9.50 Canadian, and you get 15% off of that with the 88 sats code as well. So honestly, like, that's a pretty good deal. You get a queue, you get 2 jades, and you get the stamp seed kit. And even if you don't set it up right away, like, I still think that, and even if you don't, again, even if you don't use the story here with QuickBit, whatever, but you should be thinking about your multi-sig. If you have a decent amount, I'd say 50 million sats. That's kind of the minimum for a multi-sig. But you should be buying your devices. You should be thinking about this stuff before everybody else gets here into Bitcoin. Because when the demand picks up, and I think it's going to really pick up in the new year, like the Jade, CoinKite, Blockstream, Passport Foundation, they're going to run out of devices. without a doubt. So get ahead of that. And there's probably going to be certain countries that are going to stop allowing these devices into the country. I foresee it. I don't know for sure, but now is the time to be getting ahead of that. Even if you bought this multi-sig bundle and you don't set it up for like a year, I still think that at these prices, when you can still get them and when you can still bring them into your country, I think now is the time to be doing it. So that's it. 2 hours and 50 minutes today, 15. I want to say a big thank you to everybody on Zapstream. Thank you to Kieran. I know he's gone by now, but he revived Zapstream for us. Thank you to everybody who is a Bitcoin Journeyman supporting the channel that way. For the people in the Living in the Future community, you're part of something special. I want you to know that. And I know we're very early days in there, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. But you're in Bitcoin, you're in that community. You have a very, very bright future. So just be thankful for that. And thank you to everybody who sent in some zaps for Arnie's birthday today. Moral of the story, thank you. Rajesh says, very hard to get any hardware wallets in India. Pushed to make Seed Signer and Jade from DIY. Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying. And it's India now. It could be your country next week or tomorrow. So don't just wait until you have a certain amount of sats. Don't wait until you have a couple people in your life that you think you can trust with that. Get it now, and when you need it, you'll have it. Canada's here. Canada's definitely here in Bitcoin. No doubt about that. I'm not in Saskatchewan. I'm kind of an honorary member of Saskatchewan, though. My girlfriend's from Saskatchewan, and I'm part of the Regina Bitcoin Council in Saskatchewan. I'm in Manitoba. I'm very close to the Sask border here, though. But I grew up in Manitoba. I spent my whole life here. 3 Amigos. Yeah, make sure. Go subscribe over there, and we'll see you at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. I hope everybody joins. But if not, I want you to have a great weekend, the best weekend of your life. And I posted about this on Nostr today, but did you know that the average person only gets about 4,000 Fridays in their lifetime? Best case. Some that might be 500, but the average person only gets 4,000 Fridays in their life. 4,000. And if you put that on a little piece of paper, a little visual, you can see how you are on there, right? How many Fridays you've already had versus how many Fridays you have left. So just enjoy it. Don't get too stressed. Don't go on any rants like I did today. Keep your blood pressure low. Buy some Bitcoin. Hug your family. And that's it. Kyle says, do I have Instagram? I have a Canadian crypto community that would love to have you on. Kyle, all my information's below. I have a Nostr NPub and an email address, a website. Get in touch, and I'm happy to come on or to chat with you about whatever. So hopefully we'll see you at 4 p.m. Eastern today for the Bitcoin Amigos. And I see somebody sent happy birthday, Arnie, fist bump from Jackson, 121 sats. Love it. Okay. Thanks again. See you at 4 p.m. or we'll see you first thing Monday morning. Bye-bye.